Okay, looks like it's live. Sorry for the few minute delay. Apparently, my camera didn't want to work at first, so I had to fight with it for a little bit to get it working. For anybody that catches the jumps in live now, or whoever catches the playback, you'll just hear that I said, "Hey, I was a few minutes behind." So, just doing some random chatting today. Whoever pops in, and there was one interesting conversation that I found on the letter that everyone chats upon back and forth, and that was one that now I've lost it. Goodness, I should have kept it. I should have kept it where I could see it. And I think it was an interesting conversation to me because I realized that people were talking past each other, and I'm trying now to find it. Let me see if I can look through. Nope, not finding it that way. Because apparently, there we go. Here we go. Okay, so Paul Gale put up a post on X about milestones that were hit between the PS2 and the Nintendo Switch. And if you look at it, you pay attention to it, the Switch is doing the same numbers that the PS2 has done in a shorter period of time. If you're just looking at it straight up as the numbers and the time frame that those numbers were hit. So with that in mind, looking at a part of a conversation because there's a particular person I'm not trying to jump up on this person or whatever, not going at them or anything. It's just how the conversation went. Is their reply started a chain of replies to the whole Paul Gale. I said Paul Gale post. Is the person's. I'm not going to go with their at. They went with their. They put the name Brittany up. They put the name Brittany up on their thing. What's wrong? Do you even know what's wrong, or you just nosy? You came over, you made a noise, then came over here with a smile on your face. You are just nosy. You are nosy. You are very nosy. Your brother is right there chilling out. He didn't do anything to you, or did you spill your drink on yourself? Hold on for a second, folks. Got to do parenting stuff. Okay, trying to get back to this was actually a little time, and they're trying to get back to where I was. So the person Brittany talked about world population and stuff like that. Switch released in Hong Kong and China and regions that PS2 wasn't. it was said it was like comparing box office sales. You don't just for inflation and number of theaters or audience size is not accurate. And while that's true, the first way that comes off is sounds like you are trying to downplay the successes of one because of changes that weren't available to the other. And that's how it sounds when you first see it. JJ, no, leave that stuff alone. That's how it comes off is like, okay, yes, Switch is successful, but all these other metrics were in place that allowed it to be successful. Okay, but there's metrics in place for the PS2 that wouldn't apply to the Switch that also allowed the PS2 to be successful. So what's the point? We're just looking at what happened as the situation, not if you change this, this happens, or if you change that, that happens. It's just this is what was here, and this is that. I don't know where that's confusing. I don't get where that's confusing, to be honest. But I get where people looked at, because this person, Brittany, I don't know if it's an actual guy or a girl, because people put up a bunch of different stuff on their profiles. So I'm just looking at it like it's easy to see this. Is for most people, they look at what you're saying. It's like, okay, you're trying to say it wouldn't do what it did if these circumstances didn't come about, and that becomes pretty prevalent as you look through their conversation. So Shadow Fox was one of the first people to respond. He said, no DVD player, PS2, no global semiconductor shortages. Switch following a sub 50 million selling console without backwards compatibility. PS2 following a 100 million plus selling console with backwards compatibility. So, I mean, if you're going to say there are advantages for one that the others didn't have, there are advantages for the other that the one we're currently talking about didn't have. So it was like, that's where I was looking at. It was like, it's a weird way to compare it. Like PS2 doubled, as a lot of people would say, and I got reamed on Twitter for saying it. The PS2 doubled as a very cheap DVD player. And that's what it was. It doubled as a cheap DVD player. A lot of parents, especially over here in America, wouldn't have bought it if it didn't have the dual purpose use. I don't know how many people remember when they were younger. I know for my generation. JJ, please stop yelling, buddy. I'm talking. But people from my generation remember their parents saying, hey, stop playing your games on my TV before you mess it up. As a kid, I'm sitting there, how does this mess that up if it's made to work with that? I never understood it then as a kid, and I still don't understand the logic behind it now. Because it's like you have your VCR hooked up to your TV. Back then, a VCR. You had your VCR hooked up to your TV. It worked perfectly fine. It didn't make a difference. If we're being honest, it's just parents just not wanting to let their kids take a use of the TV. And they could have just said that instead of giving us this BS. But that's a null and void point here. Just me rambling. Hold on a second. So I had to keep my son from peeling something apart. But if we're going, like, in the conversation followed a string of, well, now the Switch is a handheld. Like, it's not just a handheld; it operates as both. You can't take one part of it away and say, hey, this specific thing is what this is. This is the reverse Wii U situation when it comes down to conversations. This is like when people say the Wii U's name is the only reason it wasn't successful. This is the flip of that. So now we're saying the Switch was only successful because it was a handheld, but it serves a dual purpose. It serves the purpose of being a handheld and a home console. If it didn't serve a dual purpose, and it was the replacement for the Wii U, it didn't. It replaced the Wii U directly. If we were talking about a direct replacement, it replaced the Wii U directly. If we're talking indirectly, it replaced both the Wii U and the 3DS because again, it serves a dual purpose. That's why we call it a hybrid, because it serves a dual purpose. So we're having literally the inverse conversation from why the Wii U wasn't successful to why the Switch is successful. Yeah, Legend of Josh, that is a perfect way to sum it up. It's a home console you can take on the go. And Nintendo did say that. I always said it was a home console. It operates too much like a home console to be considered a handheld for me. Handhelds don't allow you to have multiple players on one single device. At least not as a traditional handheld console. They don't do that. So it is a home console you take on the go. You're playing your home console games out and about in the open on the go. And that was the whole purpose of it. Again, it serves a dual purpose. You play it at home, you play it on the go. And it just comes down to like apparently they weren't trying to discredit what the success of the Switch was, but the way that they worded themselves is that they make it sound like you're trying when you say, oh well, this wouldn't have done as well as it did if this didn't happen, or if the pandemic didn't happen and forced people at home, this wouldn't have sold as well. Okay, but people were at home with the other game consoles as well. People were at home with the other platforms as well. So what the correlation of that, you can poke holes in it. It's just like, why are you even making this conversation in the first place? It almost comes off. And they say towards the end, because Nintendo Prime jumps in somewhere along the way, but they say towards the end of it, they were just trying to have a conversation. But it's your wording and your point choices that make it sound like you're either one trolling or discrediting or both, because these are talking points that people who would be trying to discredit something would bring up. Because it would be easy to go ahead and say, well, PS2 only sold as well as it did because it was a DVD player. That's not true. It's not the only reason it sold as well as it did. Is the myriad of factors that came together that explains why it sold well. But you would only really be able to realize those things posthumously after the system has run its course. You can't really say that during its lifetime. So it's one of those things where it's like you're seeing that somebody was just saying, hey, these are the results. This is what happened. This is what we know happened. These are the numbers. Cut and dry. Nothing else. And then you're trying to add interpretations into it, but those interpretations are sort of saying, hey, well, if this didn't happen, if COVID didn't happen, the Switch doesn't sell as well. I'm sorry, with the way the Switch was selling, it was trending to sell as well as it did already. It may have even sold better if COVID didn't happen, because there would have been more people earning more money, being able to make more purchases. We can't say that for sure, but you could, in fact, theorize that, because there are a number of factors that would tell you, hey, that was potentially what was going to happen. Animal Crossing this time around was a phenomenon. It did something no one expected. It did something no one expected to see happen, and it just sold gangbusters out the gate. Could that have been because people were stuck at home for COVID? Potentially, yes, because people did use Animal Crossing, and we've seen people post it on social media during the time. People were using Animal Crossing to talk with people, go out on dates and stuff like that, because they couldn't do it in person during the time frame, so they had the game. And that did happen. But does that take away from Animal Crossing's success? No, it doesn't. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has sold to close to half of the install base of the Nintendo Switch, just like it sold to over half of the install base of the Wii U for Mario Kart 8. That's not something that usually happens. That is not something that usually happens on with anything. Like, could we blame that on the pandemic too? Yes, we could, but we could also say that it was going to happen anyway, just because of how much word of mouth there is for the game and how much people talk it up. There, you can say that for just about anything. You can poke holes in just about anything if you really want to. It just depends on how your argumentation goes. But again, they said these things, but they said that they were trying to just have a conversation about what was going on versus poke holes in why something happened. But when your talking points are laid out in the way that they were laid out, it's easy to see from most other people's perspectives, like, okay, no, we're not fanboying. We're not fanboying. We're not misinterpreting what you're saying. It's just what you're saying doesn't make sense in comparison to all the other stuff that you could point at when you're looking at this. If you're going to break up these points, you're making it sound like you're discrediting what happened versus, oh, well, I mean, these things factored into it. If you said something along the lines like, well, yeah, COVID also factored into its potential sales. Animal Crossing had a massive boom at the beginning of COVID and all that stuff. You say that, then it sounds more like you're making the point that these things also happened along the way versus it wouldn't have done as well if A, B, and C didn't happen. Saying if it wouldn't have done as well if A, B, and C didn't happen is discrediting. But saying it was successful and A, B, and C also happened, that's where you have the conversation. That's where you have people just saying, hey, we're just chatting. These are the things that happened. Oh, what do you think could have happened if this didn't happen? What do you think could have happened if this did happen? Stuff like that. That's how you build the conversation. But when you started off one direction and you get the response, and the response came back from multiple people. It's not just one person. If it was one person, potentially you can argue maybe they just got in their feelings about it. But if it's multiple people, generally that means that's the direction what you said went. Sorry, I'm muting between coughs. It's like my throat dried out. Let me drink some of my water. But I've tried explaining this to people before. Sometimes when you make a point about something, you're trying to make one specific point, but it's how you say what you say where people will get another point out of what you're saying. And that's where people can talk right past each other and not at all be having the same conversation, even though they're talking about the same subject. So if I were to go with this Brittany person's genuine, if they were being genuine, I don't know because I've never had conversations with them. I'm not even active in that particular conversation. I just saw it. And it was like right before I started doing this because I was already planning to do this. But I saw it like right before. I was like, oh, that's interesting to talk about. Hey, what's up, 12 Feet, Dark Void, Trinell, Legend of Josh, and Kobe Mitchell. I'm not ignoring anybody. I just wanted to blow through that real quick. But because I think it can happen. It happened recently with me, with someone else. They were saying one thing, but they meant something that sounded totally different from what they were saying. So it kept the conversation between me, them, and several other people. They felt like people weren't paying attention to what they were saying. It was, no, we were paying attention to what you were saying, but what you were saying doesn't correlate with what you're trying to get at. And that type of thing can happen. So it's just like people have to understand, like, language has a purpose. And if you speak in a different format for the language you're using, it's going to cause people to respond in a particular way. Oh, you playing Devil May Cry 2? 12 feet. Well, you gotta think about it. People, I never hated the game. I never hated Devil May Cry 2. But going from Devil May Cry to Devil May Cry 2 right afterwards, especially when you realize that the original team that worked on Devil May Cry had nothing to do with part 2. And how it felt drastically different. Now, I'm not saying gameplay wise it felt drastically different, but tonally it felt drastically different from the first game. And during that time period, I can understand why there were so many people that had a dislike for the game. Again, personally, I liked it. I never had a problem with it. Actually, I've never got to finish it though, because when I originally played it on PS2, I played my elder brother's copy of the game. And he no longer has it. I have the Devil May Cry collection. I need to play through all of them. It's just beat all of them and call it a day. But yeah, during that time frame, people got, and I remember going online back then during all the forums and people trashing the heck out this game. But Devil May Cry 2 to me was never bad. It just wasn't as good as the first game, as far as I'm concerned. But it was nice to have a different character to play with other than Dante. And I think also the choice of changing Dante's style completely like that, it was jarring for a lot of people. Just like if someone were to play Devil May Cry and then they went behind and played DMC Devil May Cry, the alternative universe, it would just feel weird. If you go from the sort of flamboyant, playful Dante to this emo broody character that has the same name, it kind of feels like, yeah, you lost a little something there. It's just a little weird in comparison, because you expected one thing and you got something completely different. And that's kind of almost what Devil May Cry 2 Dante was like. He wasn't as jovial or playful or anything like that, like he would be when you basically return to Devil May Cry 4, where he's more like he was as his first iteration. I wouldn't say Devil May Cry 3, because then you're playing as a younger Dante, not an older Dante. So if he's younger, he's probably going to be more playful and buoyant and stuff like that, versus how he ended up being in Devil May Cry 2. And then you have Devil May Cry 4 comes after that, and he was more like what he was in Devil May Cry 1, which is what people liked about him. Hopefully I explained that well enough. This is interesting. Shonen Jump versus Capcom. I can see it. I can see that working as a versus game. Now I don't know if if Capcom is able to pen that deal, but I can see that happening. I could definitely see that happening. That'd be pretty cool. You finally people get those Goku versus Ryu fights that they used to post online all the time. Now, realistically, you'd have Goku versus Ryu, Naruto versus Strider type. Like that could be interesting. I could see it working. Now, what brands or guys they're going to use is going to be the part that's going to be confusing. Which characters would they use? I mean, I could sit down and think about it. I could go over Shonen Jump's history and pull some characters and stuff like that. I might actually do a video on that. I might have to do a video on that, because doing it right now, you would hear me drone on and monotonally talking about it. But I could probably sit down and think that through. That wouldn't be the most difficult thing to come up with. Plus, I would probably lean more into the superhero characters that Capcom has. They rarely ever use, and Wang Tang. Ain't no way that would happen. And I can't have Wang Tang in there. He fight Goku and he does that fake Super Saiyan transformation with that fake spirit bomb. You'd have to have that there, just because. And then Goku makes fun of, not Goku make fun of him, but some other shonen characters make fun of Wang Tang for being too much like Goku. That would be cool. I would do it. I'd have to do it. I gotta do that video now. Thanks for that idea though. I'm gonna do that video. I gotta remember to do it. My kids drumming on stuff. I gotta do that. That'll be interesting though. And if it stylistically, I would probably want it more like I'd say more like classic Marvel vs. Capcom, not the more recent ones, or more like Tatsunoko versus Capcom because that felt like the perfect balance. Oh, what's wrong? Give me a sec. Be right back. Yes, Trinell, that is exactly what's happening. But yeah, no, think about it. Yeah, having it more like Tatsunoko versus Capcom since I was more recently playing that. Not really leaning into how Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite felt because those, especially not Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Infinite felt a little bit better. I'm not even gonna lie. Infinite felt a little bit better gameplay wise. But I think Tatsunoko versus Capcom probably was strike the perfect balance with that gameplay style. And that would probably be what they would go with. I think that would be the best way to go about it. And now that I'm thinking about that, that's probably going to be the video footage I use in the background that because that's anime versus gaming also. So yeah, I'll do. I think I'll do that. I think I would do that. Why hasn't Sega ported all of the Dreamcast games to the Switch? Why haven't they ported them most of them anywhere? Mostly probably comes down to licensing. I don't know for sure, but that would be my first guess is that it comes down to licensing for different things. Like it could be a musical license problem. It just it depends on who is in charge of the licensing for certain things. And some of that stuff isn't even aren't even Sega's games. Some of that isn't even up to Sega to bring out. Other companies could bring those games and they just haven't. Like Capcom has a great shoot 'em up called Mars Matrix, which is not that different from Ikaruga, but they have not re-released that game on any other platform to my knowledge. I think the only platform it was on for home consoles was the Dreamcast. I'm pretty sure it was in the arcade, but I think it also only came out in the Dreamcast as far as home consoles are concerned, or any console, mind you. I would love to see that game come back because that was a really good shoot 'em up. That was a really good shoot 'em up. I enjoyed the heck out of that game. Or Cannon Spike, another great game. I would love to see Capcom bring back because it was fun. The fact that we don't have a full collection of the Shining Force series, and I mean all of it is concerning. Well, yes, that is very concerning because then you'd have to start with Shining in the Darkness, then Shining Force 1, 2, and 3. Um, what was this? What were the ones on the Game Gear called? You know what? Instead of me asking this question, what's wrong now? You got the toy, you sitting there mad. What are the names for the games? And I put Shinging Force when I did it. I don't actually. Power Stone 1 and 2 are part of the Capcom Fighting Collection. Let me put your corrected one up there. But Power Stone 1 and 2 are part of the Capcom Fighting Collection Volume 2. So those are coming out. But again, that's Capcom. That's not Sega. Um, do, 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 do. Oh gosh, this series actually has a lot more games to it than I thought. Where is the list of titles? Okay, so Shining in the Darkness is the first game. Then Shining Force Gaiden, which was on Game Gear, Shining Force The Sword of Hygia, which was on Game Gear, Shining Force 2, Shining Force CD, which was a remake of Shining Force 1 and 2. Um, Shining Force Guide and Final Conflict, Shining Wisdom, Shining the Holy Ark, Shining Force 3 Scenario 1, and then Scenario 2 and Scenario 3. That would just all be one whole game. Then there's a Shining Soul, which was on Game Boy Advance, Shining Soul 2, which was on Game Boy Advance, Shining Force Resurrection of the Dark Dragon, Shining Tears, which is on PS2, Shining Force Neo. I didn't know Shining Tears was part of that series. I remember seeing it, but I never knew that was part of the series. Shining Road to the Force. That was a mobile game, mobile phone game. Shining Force Chronicle 1, Chronicle 2. Those were mobile games. Shining Force Road Priestess of the Dark Dragon. Shining Road Priestess of the Dark Dragon. Shining Force Chronicle 3. All of those were mobile games. Shining Force EXA, which was PS2. Shining Wind was also PS2. Then there's a mobile port for each one of those. Shining Force Feather, which was on the DS. Shining Force Cross, which was arcade. What type of game is that? If it was an arcade. Then we have Shining Hearts, Shining Blade, which were PSP games. Shining Arc was a PSP game. Blade Arcus from Shining. Arcade and Windows PC. I might have to see if I can get that. Shining Resonance, which was a PS3 game. I actually remember hearing about that. I never knew that was part of the same series. Shining Blade Arcus from Blade Arcus from Shining EX. Blade Arcus from Shining Battle Arena. Those might be fighting games. Shining Resonance Refran, which that's actually on the Switch. Oh, that's just the port of the PS3 game. And then Shining Arcus Rebellion from Shining. Blade Arcus Rebellion from Shining is also on the Nintendo Switch. Gosh, that series has a lot of there are a lot of games in that series, and I would have never known. You would not know that so many of those games were a part of that series. Like with the weird naming convention, you would have not known that there are so many games that are a part of Shining Force as a series. Or the Shining series, as they just call it. Like, y'all couldn't have... Why are there so many drastically different names? Because people would not make the connection that these are all part of the same series. People would not make the connection that they are all part of the same series. That was like 20 games. I honestly thought the Shining Force itself had not been around as a series. Now I realize, hey, there's far more games. Because you have a dungeon crawler, you have an RPG, you have dungeon crawlers, you have RPGs, and then you have tactical RPGs, as well as fighting games. This series is more extensive than I realized. Now I feel like a bad fan because I only knew about a few games. Now I know that there's other games in the series I have to start playing. I have to go and play some of them. Oh, that hurts. But if we're looking for a Shining Force specifically, I think if you're just looking for the games that say Shining Force and then whatever, at that point, yeah, they could put together a collection for it, because I think all of those games are tied to the same storyline, or they are a continuing story among those specific games. All of them are connected, but they're all different. They're all different stories that are somehow connected to each other. I'd have to play through. Gosh, so many games I didn't realize were in that series. That's disheartening to know that there were so many games in that series I didn't realize were a part of that series. Because you can't just assume because the word shining is in the title of it that is connected to each other. And Sega went down that route, they pulled the Capcom on us. But they didn't do it with games that were the same game and just rename them and extend the name in weird light novel fashion. They just named them like they were light novels and put them out. Put them out. And let people. I guess people just have to guess that they're connected to each other if you never knew that before. That is wild. That is wild to know that there are so many. Are the same people who made Golden Sun the ones that made Shining Force? Shining Force, not shiny. got, got squirrel vibes going on that one. I don't think that's the same people that made those. Let me see. Oh, so people that did Shining Force 3 and the Shining the Holy Ark. I know. Those games have similar style, but oh yeah. So I guess some of the people that work at Camelot used to work at Sega, and they were the ones that were on Shining Force. Okay, didn't know that. So it's not like the whole team, but some of the people. But you had to see your hands on the camera. You got to see that you're on the camera. That's what you're trying to do. At least you admitted it. I'm not kneeling before you. You are not Bison, and it is not Tuesday. Oh man. And you were correct in the some of the team. Yes, some of the team that worked on the Shining Force series did work on Golden Sun. I was incorrect because I didn't. I wasn't even incorrect. I said I don't know. So, or I don't think so. So that's not really incorrect. That's me just catching up. Oh crap! Didn't mean to. I accidentally muted myself. What games have I been playing right now? Well, one recently was Tatsunoko versus Capcom. Been playing Mass Effect. Been playing Street Fighter Collection again. Just messing around with it because sometimes I go back to old games. Um, I did play Ridge Racer 64 a little bit. My skills are not as good as I used to be at it, but I still place top 3 most of the time. So I'm not horrible, but I am definitely rusty in comparison to what I was when I used to play it. Um, I think that was it at the moment. I've been wanting to get back into playing some of my 3DS stuff, but every time I get started on it, I end up getting sidetracked from it. So then I don't go back to it. I mean, look, we can't be good at every game. They're playing games. I just don't vibe with at all. Like Romancing Saga, I am not good with Romancing Saga. Can't play them. Apparently, people love them, but I can't. I can't deal with them. The style of the game just doesn't work for me. What are you doing? I have my little drummers over here. Oh, you're not getting that back. I pretty much I have the whole Devil May Cry series outside of DMC. That's the only one I don't want. I might even go get that. Might even pick that up on Steam at some point. I have the whole collection. I just have not been playing them. See, so I'm back from the pause. I'm now I'm a little bit jealous. I haven't even gotten to play God Hand. I have not gotten to play God Hand. That's why I really want them to bring that back out. And I'm thinking since Kamiya has Clovers now and they're working with Capcom on the Okami sequel, maybe they'll go ahead and revive a few things that Capcom just wasn't willing to touch for the longest period of time. And I'm hoping that that's one of them because I would love to get God Hand and actually play it and also support it. I don't have it. I don't have it. If I had it, I would. I don't have it. That's my big problem. I don't have it. Okay, I need to not like have that pop up on. If I remember correctly, isn't the PS3 store shut down? Isn't the PS3 storefront shut down? I do have a PS3. If the PS3 storefront isn't shut down, then yeah, I'll go ahead and snatch it up real quick. Once I actually log myself back in, I haven't logged into my PS3 in I don't know how long. I've played on it, I just haven't logged in. So yeah, that's a problem right there. If I had known it was on the PS3 storefront, though, I probably would have gotten it before it shut down. I just didn't know it was. Oh well, you win some, you lose some, and I lost that one. Oh yeah, I would be all over this. I would be all over this. I would love to see Mad World and Anarchy Reigns on the Switch too. Actually, they could be on the Switch. Why even wait for the Switch 2 when they can be on the Switch right now? There was a 360 PS3 game and a Wii game. Those could have been on the Switch. Those could have definitely been on the Switch. That's again, that's probably more of a publishing rights thing than anything else or a licensing issue that people keep forgetting that you can't preserve video games the way everybody wants them to be preserved legally because of how many people hold ownership over different aspects of video games that are being designed. Like you don't necessarily have one owner for some things, but you get multiple different owners because of different parts of a game or people that are involved in it. And that's one of the big reasons that we have so many games that aren't available to people the way that everyone wishes, and even that I wish that they could actually just be available. Oh yeah, I agree with you. The songs for those games are great, but I want both of them back. I never got to finish Mad World. I think I started playing it. This is during the time period I was borrowing games, trading and borrowing games back and forth for the Wii. Like I don't know what with people. I played it, but I never actually beat it. So like I could easily, you know what I could? I could probably find that. I could probably find that game somewhere and play it on my Wii U because I could just go ahead and pop it in there. I didn't even think about that. I might just do that. Just go ahead and find a copy of it and purchase it for my collection, my library. Because I have been going back and getting some of the Wii games that I did play, like some of the ones I played but I didn't own, just because I was trading back and forth with people. So I might just go ahead and do that. That's probably going to be one that's going to be pretty daggone costly though. So I have to wait for the right time and see if there's some good pricing, or if they decide, just go ahead and release them again for modern consoles. That would be great as well. But we'll see. There's no guaranteeing that'll happen. Ugh. Okay. My knee hit my desk, which knocked everything off for a second. Then my mic muted. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's true. It is the only option currently. Uh, but part of me doesn't want to do it that way. Honestly, I'd rather they just do a re-release of it, which is looking like Capcom might be doing because they're starting to go back and take all their old games and re-release them anyway. So if I'm patient enough, there'll probably be a remastered version of the game in the very near future, which would effectively do the same thing as that, but then I'd also be supporting the developers and the people that put it out there. But if it doesn't, I am not afraid to go ahead and use an emulator. I just don't like having to use it. I prefer to play on the actual hardware if there's an option to do it, or play on a re-released version of it. That's usually my big problem. Or if I could actually find a copy of it for cheap for PS2, I would, because I still have my PS2. And I got my PS3. I could go ahead and I have my PS3 is modded so I can play my PS2 games on it. So if I get a copy of the PS2 version of the game, I could go ahead and just load it onto my PS3 and play it, because it's one of the games that was on the storefront for PS3, so it shouldn't have any problems playing on the PS3. I'd have to check for compatibility though. But that is an option. That is definitely an option to consider. Actually, how much is that costing right now? Let me do a quick search on that. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. First price that pops up, 150. Nope, not for one game. Nope, that ain't happening. The first price that just pops up, viewable for Guyana, 150. And the next one after that is $80. I could do that a little bit more than that 150. But man, but those are also the European versions I'm looking at. The 150 one is the US version of it. Whew, that that was a mini heart attack. I looked at that like, nope, I look, I ain't rolling in that type of dough. Well, I could just drop 150 on the game like that. Like, nope, y'all just going. Mm-mm. See, and some people dislike me for saying this. This is where I find it to be okay. This is where I find it to be okay for people to download and play a game on an emulator. I'm not condoning it, but under the circumstances, if you aren't planning to keep the game, you just want to play it, beat it, get it out the way because it looked cool to you, and there are no other reasonable available options for you under whatever your circumstances are, then I'm okay with it. Outside of unless you already own it, then I'm okay with it. If you already own it or there are literally no other viable options for you, then I'm like, okay, I understand it a little bit more. It's not necessarily going to do you any good to go broadcasting it if you do that. But at that point, then I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit more understanding. I'm not completely black and white on the issue of piracy. I'm just leaning more towards the side of, hey, you don't get to morally grandstand if you do. You can't go ahead and say, well, I pirated the game. I can play whatever I want. Ha 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 ha, and laugh in people's faces and expect no repercussions. As we are seeing repercussions are happening to people. I'm always of the mindset, if there's a way to support the game and support the people who created it, go that route. That is the best route to take. If you can support the people who made the game, then go that route. If you can't, then I'm not going to sit there and be mad at somebody for not wanting to drop $300 to some rando on eBay because they have a copy of the game and they want to charge an arm and a leg for it. Hey, they have the option to resell it at that price, and I have the option to not buy it at that price. So I'm not black and white when it comes down to, why are you ramming into my arm? Are you good? You having fun ramming into my arm? He's got a whole thing. But I think it's best to support the developers of the projects. I think that in and of itself is the best way, because everybody wants more games, more of the games they like. How are you going to get more of that game if the people that you of the game that you love, you say you love, and you want to see more of? How are you going to get more of that if that company goes under because they don't perform sales wise? How is that going to happen? If we're talking about you want more from the official source, how is that going to happen? Granted, there can be people who make mods of the original game. There can be people who make fan games and all of that other stuff. But if you want more official content from the source that made what you loved originally, how are you going to get more of it if you never support them? No, I don't have the Sega NES or SNES menus. I don't have any of those. I thought about getting them, but I don't have them. I don't have those or the PlayStation 1 mini console either. Well, Why don't I have the mini consoles? I just never picked them up. Literally, I just never picked them up. At the time, most of them were coming out. I had a lot of other things going on, so they weren't on my mind. I mean, I might at some point go back and buy all of them, but I'm not really worried about it right now. I mean, I already have tons of games anyway as is. I'm trying to find a way to play half of them. And I doubt that I'll get even halfway through the library of stuff I have in my lifetime, let alone add more stuff that some of that stuff on those consoles or games I've already beaten many times over anyway. What are you two arguing about now? Uh, being a parent. See that they are why I can't do this full time. Um, no, I'm not trading. I'm not trading it. I don't tend to do that. It's just never been of interest to me. Um, but no, I'm not trading them. I don't. For me, there's not really a point to trade it in. It's always good. It's always good to have something as a backup. And again, people talk about preserving things. If you want to preserve something, that's how you preserve it, by keeping it. But I mean, are they going to allow trade? I'm pretty sure most places that sell game consoles, if they've had a trading program before, they will have the trading program now. Uh, that's just going to come down to whatever companies or whatever storefronts have them. I'm pretty sure they'll definitely have trade-ins. Now, I don't know how much you're going to get off by trading your Switch or a Switch Lite or whatever in for your Switch 2. I think that's going to come down to which version of it that you're trading in. Uh, yeah, I don't know how companies like GameStop are going to break that down. I'm pretty sure they'll have a trade-in program like they always do whenever there's a new console generation, and then you'll have all those that people trade in lined up for somebody to go and purchase used off of their sites, which will just allow more people to be playing Switches or people to get replacement Switches in case something happened to their OG Switch. And the main reason I'm not trading it in is just because, be careful not to rock my desk. Mainly, I'm just not trading in because I know that there's going to be some slight differences between the two of them, and just in case there are more games than anticipated that don't work with the Switch 2, I'd rather have the Switch available just in case. I got plenty of ideas. I have plenty of ideas for it. I actually, I was thinking about doing some videos with that in mind because I actually already came up with my thumbnail. If I can, let me see. I can bring it up because I had already thought about that. Let's see. Ah, that's an invalid file type. Well, screw you, StreamYard. Let me see if I upload my Google Drive if I can show it that way. Because I did already make the thumbnail for the videos that I'm going to be using. Like that was the easy part. Let me make sure the file is showing on there. All right, cool. Oh, that's right. I would have to be doing a slideshow. There's a simpler way to do this, and I don't know why I'm trying to do this the hard way. Just put it on the screen and share screen. Duh. I am sitting here adding work to what I'm trying to do. I could have very easily done it the way I'm about to do now, all because I just wasn't thinking about it. But yeah, already came up with the thumbnail. It's just gonna look like this, and you'll see whatever the game is in this center space right here, so that you can. I did not mean for you to change size, but yeah, I found the picture and just completely cut it because Mario Kart was right here. That's why you see the colors along the edges, and I completely cut Mario Kart out. Just put it black right there, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use that for all my thumbnails for Switch 2 stuff. I was already thinking about just start rolling out videos because I've got like 20 or so ideas already in my head, and that's just off the top. Some stuff should would already be doable on the Switch without the Switch 2, but I know that they're just not on the Switch, so I'm going to go ahead and do those videos and get them out the way, just like I did with the Switch leading up to its launch and throughout its life. Just make more videos. Ain't going no skin off my teeth. Mario Paint. Honestly, I would hope that Mario Paint in and of itself would be a thing again, or they would take the concepts that they came up with for the Nintendo 64 DD drive and repurpose them, because those all those ideas, along with like Mario Maker, all that stuff, sprang up initially from the idea of Mario Paint. I would love them to do that. That would be pretty cool. Actually, I don't know why they never made a mobile port version of Mario Paint. That would have been one of the easiest things for them to do. They could have made a mobile version of Mario Paint and just let you use it on your phone or tablet. But if they're not going to do that, then I would love for them to do a console version of it that allows usage for it with the mouse functionality of the new Joy Cons. I'm just waiting to see how they do it. I'm also wondering how they're going to do light gun games, because you would think if they're going to do a light gun game, they'd have to have a different. I think I put them away. Oh no, I didn't. Like how you have these casings for like the Wii, and you have something similar for like the Switch Joy Cons. I wonder how they're going to do light guns, because you'd have to essentially, if they're using the infrared for the let me tilt that. They're using the infrared for the Switch 2 Joy Cons. The infrared points down. You need the barrel to point outward. So you'd have to have something that takes the infrared from here and stretches it out this way so it lines up with the barrel, which they could do. I'm pretty sure plenty of companies could do that, but I just don't know who's going to do it or if that's going to be a thing. But it would be nice to have some light gun games come to this, and they do something with that. I'm not going to take that out of context, because with that Jerry picture, that's bad with that Jerry picture. Um, yeah, but there was a lot more you could do with Mario Paint than paint. You could do the coloring. You could make the songs with the different sounds that they had in it. They had a lot of stuff that you could do with Mario Paint. That's why I'm like that. I would like them to bring that concept back and maybe have a way you could import pictures and stuff like that. Or if they take it a step further and do like the I think I had an idea for this to do like a me studio. Like take the concept of Mario Paint, take the Mii's, and take what they did with Me Photo Maker and Meetimo, roll all that up into one thing and give it to you, let you make videos and movies using your me. Maybe have you be able to type in stuff and it does the little voiceovers and stuff like that. That would be cool. I would be down for them to do something like that. Um, I just wish that they would do it. And I'm hoping that since Nintendo did say that they're trying to get back into doing mobile stuff, they will roll into those ideas. What are you arguing over? Over nothing. But I would really like to see them do that because it would. They have so much potential for what they have that's just not being used. And I don't want to say it's that they're leaving it on the table. I just think they haven't got around to it yet. It feels like they haven't gotten around to those types of ideas and that stuff. That's the type of stuff I want to see them do. And I'm still questioning whether or not what the capabilities of the Switch 2 are, because it just feels like they didn't show us everything it could do. It really felt like they didn't show us everything it could do. And I think the whatever the developer that I had done the response that I had gone over his video, he did do another breakdown of the Switch 2, and that because I saw the thumbnail for it, and it looks like there's an infrared thing at the top of it, and if it does lean down like I said, and you could use it as a screen, and to have there's a lot to speculate about. F-Zero like that, I don't know, honestly, because it depends. Because there's two ways you can look at that. If somebody's flying an F-Zero, like just say they do an F-Zero game like that, and somebody's flying a ship like that, if they have poor twitch reflexes or they are very jittery, that is going to be horrible for their gameplay experience. Because you think somebody's doing this and they're doing like this, trying to fly their ship around. If they don't know how to steady their hand, they are going to do horrible at that game. They would do so horrible playing like that. Now I could see them implementing the Mario Kart Wii type controls where you hold the Joy-Con sideways, or you have like the racing wheel that you put it in and you hold it. I can see them doing that more likely for an F-Zero game. But they might even do the mouse controls. No, Nintendo, they might even just go ahead and do the mouse controls for an F-Zero game. But you just pointed out, I was about to say an F-Zero GX, that would be horrible. You might get away with it in F-Zero X. You could get away with it in the 2D flat racing F-Zero games. And you might get away with it in F-Zero X because there aren't a whole lot of super sharp turns in that game, except for when it comes down to the X Cup. But yeah, in general, that's not a good idea. You don't want a bunch of people that are uncoordinated trying to play that game in that setup. They would do so horrible. Now, if you wanted to do it as something to challenge yourself, my knee keeps hitting my desk. I'm sorry. It keeps hitting my desk and shaking the camera. But if you wanted to play like a mouse mode to challenge yourself, that'd be pretty cool. I'd do it. I would do it. I would definitely do it. Then there are games that you could do like a trucking simulator. Like if you probably have to have like specialized pieces for it. But if you had like a trucking simulator, like that had like a wheel that you could use, and you put the other Joy-Con down and use it to shift gears for your truck or something like that, or even just in a normal race car game where you have the wheel that has the little platform, you put the left Joy-Con in that, then put the right Joy-Con down and use use it in the mouse mode to do the gear shift. That would work, and you just use the triggers on the Joy-Con for your gas and brake. So there are applications. It just comes down to how it's applied, how it's used. I could think up this stuff on the fly constantly. That's why, like I said, I'm gonna have to do that video series. But it's just one of those things. Like I really want to see what they're doing with it. So anything that I come up, any of the videos I do now for it, probably won't dive too much into what the Joy Cons can do, just simply because I'm going to probably wait until they actually show us fully what it can do and what the other parts of it do. Oh, that would be cool. That would definitely be cool. One moment, getting a phone call from my wife. Sorry again for the brief interruption. Hey, what's up, J Biggs? Um, but yeah, playing the Quake, any of the Quake games online with the Joy-Con as a mouse would be fun. That'd be real fun. Heck, if they finally decide, since Microsoft said that Call of Duty is going to be showing up on Nintendo platforms, Call of Duty. I was heard that there's a rumor about Battlefield coming over to the Switch 2 also. Like any FPS game is going to benefit from being able to be played with that mouse setup. Ah, dang it. 1 second. See, you one of the few people that says that the gimmicks are exciting to you. For me, every game console, as long as it's got an interesting gimmick, is something I want. I guess that's why I haven't been so interested in PS4, not PS4. Actually, even that's why I wasn't so interested in the releases of the later the PS5 and the Xbox. Is like y'all doing the same thing. Like you're doing the same thing, and I don't need to buy anything additional to use what you already got. So why am I going to worry about getting the new stuff? Unless and if I wanted to be a graphics whore at that point, I might as well just go ahead and focus on PC. Like I might as well just focus on PC if I'm not worried about graphics, which I was planning on upgrading my PC anyway. So I could just do that. Just either upgrade my PC or get a new one with better specs. Those are options. I swear people forget that. And then on top of that, I get to keep my hard drive, my SSD, and any other stuff that I already got with my current computer if I wanted to switch to a new one, because this one does have some issues I want to go get fixed. But I could just go ahead and get the controllers I want to use and use them on PC. I'm willing to deal with the issue of dealing with settings to adjust for a game to work well on a PC. That doesn't matter so much to me. Like if I still have an option to do what I want to do with it, and I can essentially get near the same play experience as someone else by just swapping the controller, I'm gonna do that while still supporting the developers. That's why I'm like, you see everything coming over to PC from both of them. At this point, I'm like, it ain't no point in me getting your stuff. One, your hardware is not unique enough. And while the DualSense controller is interesting, if all of your games are going over to PC, I could just get the controller and play on PC using the controller features. I might have to find a way to enable them, but people have been working on that. So I would just be able to go ahead and use it. There's a chance you could. I don't know if it would be the most comfortable PC mouse, but you could. I'm pretty sure. I mean, that doesn't sound like a far-fetched idea to me. You probably could. You might have to do some there might be some finagling that has to be done because there may just be specific settings for it to work with the Switch 2 that way that would have to be emulated on PC, but I'm pretty sure it could be done. I don't know if it'll be out the gate or if it has to be fixed to be that way, but I'm pretty sure it can be done either way. And if it's not right out the gate, someone will figure it out. Third party Joy Cons are going to have to operate mostly like the real ones. They'll have to use the whatever codecs Nintendo puts in the actual Joy Cons for them to work. So it still would end up being the same thing unless they're just going to have third party Joy-Cons not have the mouse mode to them, and they just operate more like the original Joy-Cons, just a different size for the current model of the platform that's out. That's also a potential chance that could happen. We won't know until we get to that point. I'm still also figuring that all of the controllers and Joy-Cons from the current Switch will work with the new one. No, I didn't see the new Switch 2 Pro controller. Let me check that out. If it is, it's essentially going to look like the other ones, and it's not really that big of a deal. That's really it. It's essentially going to be the other one, just with the additional buttons. If that's the case, I mean, yeah. Because I'm looking at it right now, it really just essentially looks like the other Joy-Con. I mean, not the Joy-Con, the other Pro controller. It's essentially looking like their original ones, just a little bit. If I found the right one, it's just looking a little bit more rounded, and it has that extra button. I mean, if that's the case, that's cool. That would be nice, but I would wonder how that form factor doesn't exactly lend itself to using as a mouse, and you'd have to have the infrared in it to do so. I mean, it's a possibility. I just don't, unless it's coming down at the bottom of the controller. But then if you're sliding that around, you're potentially running the risk of damaging your triggers. Now, I don't know how many people would be willing to risk that. It's doable. Now, is it the best idea? Probably not, but it is doable. Oh, then I must have seen the wrong one then. Hold up. That is not what I typed in. Yeah, I'm not seeing anyone that. Where did y'all see that? First of all, let me. If you can split the Pro controller in two, isn't that essentially the same thing as being a Joy-Con though? Are you sure that's not just a third party controller? Well, seeing it on there, it's any random potential chance. Let me see if I can find it. Those are patents. And it's a potential thing. It might not be what they are doing with the Pro controller. Yeah, I was just looking at that. Those are patents. If we're talking about patents, that would be interesting, but I don't. At that point, what's the point of having the Joy-Cons then? Because if you're going to have that different, if you're going to take the feature that makes it unique to the Joy-Cons, part of the Pro controller, what's the point of having the Joy-Cons? That would I don't know. I don't know about that one. It it's potentially how it's going to be done, but that's Nintendo patents so much stuff, you never know what's actually going to end up in a console. Because they patent so much stuff that becomes relevant during whatever time frame they're releasing the console. Now, I get wanting the LEDs, but just plain black controllers. I mean, that matte finish does look good, though. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. The matte finish looks good, but you just want plain black controllers, man. You set in your ways, ain't you? I ain't gonna knock it though. Look, I play games the way I want to play them too. Like Matt, and people will probably be mad at me for saying this. I play Mass Effect on my PC. I don't play mouse and keyboard because I got used to playing it with the gamepad. I got used to playing it with the controller. So I started playing on Xbox with the controller. I played on Wii U with the controller. So I'm used to playing it with the controller. Even though I can play it sufficiently with mouse and keyboard, I'm used to playing it with the controller. The only thing I wish is that freaking Xbox would have gyro in their daggum controllers, but they don't. And I might have to find a setup for using my Switch Pro controller for my PC. That's why we have motion for aiming in FPS games. Like it's just another way to do the same thing. It's just another way to be able to do the same thing. I like just having the options because one style of play may be more comfortable for you than another, and it's nice to have the options available. Gyro being around is great. Having the mouse mode is great. Also, I would I want them to be able to bring back having. I threw a bunch of them back here because I had rechargeable batteries for these, but the rechargeable batteries died. But I would love to be able to do this again. Point at the screen, or depending on if it's the game, lock it in here and point it at the screen. I would love to be able to do that again. But we don't have confirmation that that's going to be an option again. Even though I do think that we probably will get a Nintendo Wii in the NSO at some point where we'll have wireless. We'll be able to use these with an attachment, or we'll have a special wireless Wii remote and nunchuck for it. So I want to see that happen. I'm looking forward to that potentially. I There's so much stuff that Nintendo could be doing right now, and looking at the patent though. It does look interesting, but I think it's a little too soon to assume that that is what we would be using, especially with the way the size of that those controllers. And if this patent was what? How long ago was this filed? Really depends on how long ago this patent was filed, and we don't know what it's potentially going to be for. Because those controllers might not be for the Switch Pro, Switch Pro, Switch 2. They might not be for the Switch 2. It could be for another platform. Or if it is for the Switch 2, it could be for a VR mode for the Switch 2. We won't know anything until the direct comes out, honestly. And it's just going to be a lot of folks speculating. I'm I'm not going to say it's confirmed, but it just the size of when you look at the pictures of the patent, the size of those are so small. They're not that they're not that much bigger than the current Joy Cons. So I'm like, why would you want a Pro controller that's smaller than the Joy Cons that are coming with the Switch 2? That kind of feels a little weird to me. It almost feels to me like those controllers are that controller setup is for something completely different. I I could be very wrong. It's just what in my head I think that that's for something different. I don't think that that's for the Switch 2 because Nintendo will patent a bunch of different things and ideas, and sometimes they don't even use the stuff until many, many, many years later once they find a way to implement it. So, and just again looking at the size of that, I don't think it's for the Switch 2. I really don't think it's for the Switch 2. It could be, but I just don't think it is. You got to think about how many patents did Nintendo file that were around the time that the Switch launched that that never came to fruition with the Switch. So I'm looking at it from that aspect. I don't think that that's for the Switch 2. I think that's for another device. Could be the follow-up to the Switch 2, or it could be a whole other device altogether. It might even be something connected to the stuff that they're doing with theme parks. You mean Mortal Kombat 1? Because I have Mortal Kombat 11 on my Switch. It looks fine. Mortal Kombat 1, on the other hand, looked atrocious coming out on the Switch. But they already updated that one for it to look better on the Switch too. And Switch as well. Not Switch 2. Now they're having fun. But they already did do patches to kind of make that game look and run better on the Switch. So that's not necessarily a big thing that they would have to worry about for Switch 2. Now, maybe they'll have a update for it for a specific version of it. Looks blurry? How long ago did you play Mortal Kombat 11 on your Switch? Because I do remember that it did come out looking a little bit muddy, but they did updates for that one also. And at this point, they probably wouldn't update Mortal Kombat 11. It would be Mortal Kombat 1 that they would update. They're not more than likely not going to go back and. Well, of course, it's going. If you are comparing how it looks on the PC to the Switch, then you're always going to see it looking better on PC. It's because you have a higher resolution on the PC than on the Switch. That's where the blurriness is coming in, because you have higher resolution textures on your PC than you do on your Switch. That's where the problem's coming in. So yeah, if you look at them right next to each other 1-to-1, it's going to look blurry in comparison to the PC, because it's the same thing that happened when you play what was it, Warframe on you played Warframe on your Switch. Looking at it in comparison to playing it on PC, it looks much cleaner on PC than it does on your Switch, but on Switch it still looks good for what it does. That's why I was confused by what you're saying. Okay, now I get what you're talking about. But no, and if there's anyone that they're going to update, it wouldn't be Mortal Kombat 11. It'd be Mortal Kombat 1. That would be the one that they would update, because that's the current one on the market. Mortal Kombat 11 is the past game. As weird as that sounds when you say it in order, Mortal Kombat 11 comes before Mortal Kombat 1. It just sounds weird. But yeah, Dang, I had a thought and you sidetracked all the hell out of me. I had a whole thought that I got sidetracked from when you brought up Mortal Kombat. They're having fun. They ain't arguing no more. Simpatico. You and I are simpatico on that. I don't know. Between that, being able to use the infrared pointing for the Wii and the motion controls that everybody says the Wii waggle, like you doing this with your hand when you playing every game. I was like, did y'all actually play the games, or did you just boot the game and do stuff to see how it worked and it didn't work the way that you expected it to. So then you got upset about it. That I'm just like, how did you get? This is what people imagine when they say "we waggle." That somebody's doing this when they're playing a game. I have never done a ridiculous motion like that to play any game on the Wii. Not one game have I played where I had to do something that weird in order to play the game. So I don't know where the Wii waggle thing comes from. Because you're not taking the controller. This pink one was actually for my wife to use, but you're not taking the controller and just swinging it around like this. Like you do the motions based on what is going on in the game. I haven't done that in any Mario Party game on the Wii. I've played each one of them. I have not done anything that weird. Unless maybe you got so into it that you did it, but I don't remember doing that. I don't remember a mini game that required a weird motion like that. I remember some of them looking funny, but not being that weird. I think that's just a gamer thing. People exaggerating it to the point that it doesn't make any sense. Like, oh yeah, the Wii waggle, where it looks like you're one of the two people blowing around in the wind outside of a freaking car dealership, where your arms and legs are swinging about like this. How did you do that with Skyward Sword? How? That game is so precise. How would you be doing that with Skyward Sword unless you just trying to rapid fire swings? You just going in there gung ho trying to clobber everybody with your sword. I played Skyward Sword. That explains it. This explains it right here, because you get mad. So the waggle ain't on fault of the system. The waggle is on fault of the user. The waggle is the fault of the user, not the console. Because I was like, I played Skyward Sword. I never did that. I did all my swings precise. With all the tilting and turning, I did all of them precise. Because honestly, that made it fun for me being able to do it that way. He said, because I got mad. Like, okay, but that's not that. You don't blame the console for you doing it. Oh yeah, the Deku plants. Because of how their mouths open. I could see them getting frustrating. But if you just take the time and stop for a second, it's a quick swipe. It's a quick 2-second swipe and then they're done. Sometimes multiple hits, if I remember correctly. I haven't played it in a while. I probably should pick it up again from a Switch. Just to have it. But I was like, nah, I don't remember that having to do any weird wiggly motions like that. Twilight Princess wasn't as precise, but I never had that type of motion problem with it. It just activated on how you swung. So if you did a swipe motion with it, it did a swipe motion. I never went out my way to do weird stuff. I acted as if I was in the moment being Link. If I'm being Link and I have the actual sword in my hand, I'm not going to sit here swinging my arm to and fro like this. I'm actually going to focus on my swipes. So maybe it's just a mindset thing. that could be wholeheartedly taken out of context. But that again, that's a user thing. That's not it was designed to with that in mind. That's a user thing. Well, I can see where people say if you're trying to do a direct one-to-one comparison, like, oh well, this game looks so clear when I play it on my PC, and where it looks so clear when I play it on my Xbox, but then I put it in this device that has a handheld mode, which means that it doesn't use as much wattage, which means that we're not going to get as much power drawn to it. It looks a little bit muddy in comparison. I get the comparison. I understand it because you're looking at a sharper quality image. That would be like if I took the same picture, if I took like a picture that was framed in 240p and I just blew it up to 1080p, it's going to look murky because you're just stretching the image, which means that you're not adding pixels, you're just stretching the pixels. That's kind of the same concept, just done in reverse. It's like where the Switch doesn't have as many pixels to give. Whereas on PC and the other platforms, you have more pixels available because you're looking at a higher resolution image. So it's just that comes down to just the quality of the image. If you take the same picture at 480p versus 540p versus 900p versus 1080 versus 4K, and they're all the same image, just different resolutions. As you go up higher in resolutions, you're just going to notice a little bit sharper in quality, a little bit more sharpness in the quality of it as you go higher up in resolution because there's more pixels to fill in those spaces. Less pixels means that the pixels are stretched more. So that would be why people would say stuff like Switch games might not look as good to them on, say, like a 4K TV. Even though most 4K TVs do some form of upscaling, it's still not going to look as good. I mean, look, my neighbor, funny thing is, one day I was just heading out to work and my neighbors had their blinds, like their curtains wide open, looking right into their living room. And the first thing I saw is, just because it was so bright, is Wii Sports was on an HD, like a 50-inch HD TV. Wii Sports was playing. I'm like, y'all playing Wii Sports on that big of a TV, and y'all still go for it, have fun. And they were playing it widescreen and everything. I'm like, you got this. That TV is huge for that. For what you like, I know that looks a little bit muddy when you get up close. That definitely look a little bit muddy when you get up close. Dang, you just condemned the whole series just like that. Condemn the whole series. No, you are not climbing up on me, little boy. My man said, nah, Mario Party ain't for me. Y'all got y'all shot. That's it. Game over. No more y'all. I mean, look, you probably better off for it because Mario Party breaks families and friendships. You be wanting to kill people. You be wanting to go, look, you be wanting to fight people over Mario Party. So you probably better off without playing it. Just like Mario Kart. If you playing Mario Kart with your family members and friends, you probably gonna want to fight them. So that's why I'm like, Nintendo, y'all need to bring back the Wii Sports lineup and bring it back with that boxing, because I swear, give people that boxing. And I really love them to do a fully remastered Wii Sports Resort. Just do a fully remastered Wii Sports Resort and add in some of the stuff from the recent Switch. I keep forgetting the name of it right now, but the Switch sports game. That would do it. That would do a lot, and get rid of them elongated me bodies and go back to the normal ones. Because man, do those look like Slenderman. But but that would be fun. Just do that and bring back the boxing and have everybody try to fight their boy Matt, because Matt was a menace at every sport. Matt was the athlete to beat. I don't think that qualifies as mini golf because you don't have obstacles. That's just regular golf. That's regular golf. Mini golf has all the obstacles and stuff. Now, A mini golf game under that setup would have been amazing. I think there were a few, just not one that was made by Nintendo. But yeah, that just counts as normal golf because you just aiming for the green. I actually got in a lot of arguments with people playing golf, playing Wii Sports Golf back after the Wii originally released because I got my Wii. I got my Wii what like let's say I got my Wii like I got my Wii 4 months after the Wii came out, and that Wii that I had still works. I still have my OG launch window Wii, and it still works to this day. Am I a monkey ball fan? I haven't really played the series. I think I played one game out of the series, and I didn't really get a chance to get into it. And that was back on GameCube, the one that released on GameCube. So I can't say I'm a fan of the series, but I can't say I dislike the series. I just haven't had a chance to really play many games out of it. And I probably should get because there was the one that recently came out, right? There was one that recently came out. The party one that recently came out. I should probably pick that up. That'll probably be fun to play with my family. But yeah, I'm not against it. I just haven't really had much experience with it to really form much of an opinion. So that's my take on Super Monkey Ball. I haven't had much experience with the series. I would play it though. I ain't got no grief about trying the weird video games. I'll play the weird ones. Just like I would like for Sega to redo Billy Hatcher. Why not bring that back? Why not attempt to redo Billy Hatcher? It's only on GameCube. Let's go ahead and put that bad boy back out. I think Billy Hatcher would resonate with people oddly enough nowadays, just for how weird it is. You got a little boy running around on chicken eggs and platforming. I'd be up for it. What is the one thing I want out of the Switch 2? The thing I have said multiple times over, for them to bring back dual screen functionality. They have all the pieces there for it. Dual screen functionality and allowing multiple Switch units to hook up to the same dock wirelessly for split screen local play, which is something that could be done. We just don't know if it's been implemented. Because honestly, we would have to know what's inside the dock, and we don't know that for sure. So how are you so sure that will not happen at all? It might not happen with this console, but then if it doesn't ever happen again, that's a whole library of stuff that Nintendo locks themselves out of. Because there's some games that just don't work with single screen that were on the DS and the 3DS. Or that would be very complicated to make them work on a single screen, which I'm very sure a lot of people will find out from playing Xenoblade Chronicles X when they're working with the nodes, how annoying that's going to be when you have to stop to do all the same stuff that somebody could just tap a couple menu options on the screen while they're playing with the controller and still do. So I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but there's still the possibility. Again, I'm always open to the chance. Plus, we have people having multiple screens for their PC, but no one wants to attempt to multi-screen game with their PC. I know there are a few that exist, but why do people want to limit the options? I've never understood that thought process. Like, if you can have your game on one screen and you can be looking at another screen while you're streaming, You can have your phone down here and be looking at that screen. You can have a tablet over here and be looking at that screen. You mean to tell me you can't game on two screens at the same time? That's not using it as a second screen. That's more like using it as an additional. That's like mirroring it. That's not really the same thing as using it as a second screen, because you're not having a different thing displayed on there. And yeah, for some games that they did create apps like that, but I'm talking about it being more of a thing where people focus on a Falco third-person shooter. I don't know if that would really work for Falco, because Falco was more known for his ability to fly an R-wing. He was known as the best Star Fox pilot. So I would think more of a game where we would take on more missions, more solo missions with Falco, but in his R-wing would make more sense. Or maybe do something that's sort of like a blend between the two, like he's traversing through different star systems, going to different planets. Sort of, oddly enough, sort of doing a Mass Effect, but putting Falco in there, and you just take out the role-playing elements, but make it like a third-person cover shooter, I guess. And then have the segments where he's flying his R-wing to different territories, and you sometimes run into different enemies while you're flying your R-wing to different star systems or different planets. That could work. That could actually also be a basis for a full-on Star Fox game. But Falco's known for being the best pilot. So I don't know, maybe that wouldn't be the best suited to his personality, but he is definitely known for being the best pilot. Fox is more known for his groundwork, which I guess that kind of makes sense. He's a fox and Falco's a bird. Oh, hands cramping up. I don't even know why. But I've been on here for just about 2 hours. I think it's probably time for me to wrap it up. Yeah, been on here for 2 hours. I wasn't even expecting to be on this long, but it was a decently random discussion. Just random things popping up at random intervals. So we definitely fulfilled the quota of being exactly what it was. I do remember Fallout 4 doing that, and I also remember Fallout 4 doing that right after Bethesda made fun of the Wii U gamepad. I remember that happening right after Bethesda made fun of the Wii U gamepad, and then they brought out a Pip-Boy to do the exact same thing the Wii U gamepad does. I was like, what's the point in criticizing it? Then you gonna do the exact same thing. But yeah, they definitely in trouble. They sold themselves down that river. They sold themselves down that river. I'm not even again. What is it? I have the freaking game. Where did I put it? Starlink. I was sitting here looking for it. Starlink is a good game, but it just didn't do the numbers that it should have done, and Ubisoft went the live service route like idiots. So, but yeah, that's on them. Quick housekeeping. There won't be a pick your poison video this week. I did the first 4 all straight up in a month because I wanted to just get the first 4 out. Now I kind of want to put a little bit more thought into them, so that'll be bi-weekly. So that one will be next week, and then it'll be every 2 weeks after that. Just because I'm like, I want to put a little bit more thought into the scenarios I come up with. And I also enjoy doing it, so I want to make it as fun as possible for whoever's listening and responding. There won't be a Winging It podcast because we all forgot about the Super Bowl coming this weekend. So there will not be a Winging It podcast this weekend. I think Jay already made a post about it. And I'm just reiterating that for the people that usually come to my channel to listen in on it. There won't be one this weekend. We'll be back next Sunday. And I think Jack did it was either this week or next week he was starting his newscast. Actually, go over, check his channel, the Gaming Grounds. Go over there, give some support to Action Jack, please. Sandstorm, I know he'll be doing his podcast tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Um, so you go ahead and check that out. I try to be on there. Half the time I deal with my kids, I'm so wiped out by the time it gets around. I'm like, man, I can't get on here and talk like I want to. But I'm definitely trying to get on there more often because I like being on Sandstorm stuff. I do think that there is a stream that they're doing tonight. I don't remember which one. I think it might be I want to say it's Nunami tonight. I'm not sure, but I know they're having one tonight at 7 too, so you just check that out for them. Me, I want to try to have a regular one on like either Thursdays or Fridays. These random ones are just going to crop up whenever they do. But to get back to my the ones I was doing before the Game Idea Foundry talk, I'll probably be doing those. It's either going to be Thursday or it's going to be Friday. I just haven't settled completely because I don't want to conflict too much with what Jack is doing. I mean, if he's doing his stuff later in the day, I'll probably move mine to an earlier time slot because I'm usually off on Thursdays, and I just had to do some planning around that. But for me in general, just my normal ones are just going. My normal ones, I'm more than likely if I get everything set, will probably be around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoons on Thursday. That's what I'm planning for. We'll see how that changes depending on what happens with my jobs. But right now, since I have a little bit more time, that's what I'm going to work toward being the time frame, and I'll try to set that up so people can be in there for it. If not for that, then I'll try to move them to Fridays because I know more people are available on Fridays, and it'll be easier to get people on there. No, I'm not removing the background blur. I'm not removing the background blur. You will not be able to see Sifu in all of its glory right here, or Star Fox Zero, or Epic Mickey, or my Dragon Balls that are sitting here in the little black box, or my Wii games, my Switch stuff that I have to organize properly, or my Wii U stuff that's down there, or the open space I had for controllers that I'm going to be fixing to make it something else. I have to get, what I'm probably going to end up doing, and it's something I plan on doing, is get another one of these bookshelves. Then I'll reorganize everything. Then I will start showing it off. Because this one I have behind me, oh, there you go. You can see Sifu a little bit. Look at that. Just move my hand. You can see Sifu a little bit. This one that's behind me right now is not sturdy enough. And I don't have it organized the way I would like. So I don't want to show it. I don't have it organized how I would like to, and I don't want to show it, and I don't want to reorganize it just to go ahead and pull it back apart. So that's going to wait until I get me another sturdy one of these, and then I'll do it. See, I did talk about a concept like that where you play a punch-out game where you would be a new boxer, and Mac would be either the trainer or he would be your final opponent. Could be both. Could be both. He could be training you to come take his world championship. We can see. Might have to do an actual redo on that video. But I'm going to go ahead wrap this up. Thank you guys very much for listening in. And you hear my crazy coyote kids. Thank you very much for listening in. Keep your eyes and ears up for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your game.